What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Tier with Concealed YouTube channel. My name is Miles, and today we've got another Monday gun day for you. We are looking at this tiny little Bodyguard 2.0 in 380 from Smith Wesson. Like we talked about last time we did a Monday gun day, we are making a concerted effort to take a look at more subcompact and compact guns because you guys have requested that. And this was pretty high on the list. You can probably tell why. This thing is tiny. It almost looks like a toy gun. Whether that will end up being good or bad, we will find out. As you can imagine, I'm sure it conceals very comfortably, but we're gonna see if it being this small affects how well you can shoot this gun. Obviously it will affect it, but affects it enough to be an issue. Before we head to the range, we'll just go over a couple quick things about it. First one being price. This is actually pretty reasonably priced, coming in with an MSRP of around $450, give or take, depending on color, pattern, etc. Which means you'd probably be able to pick one up in a store for a little bit less than that. That is a couple $100 less than most of its competitors. So right off the bat, that already gives this one a little bonus. It's a 2.75 inch barrel, so we're getting really, really small on some of these barrels. Like I said in the last video as well, this is coming into snub nose revolver territory, which means realistically, whatever you're comfortable with your normal compact or full-size gun, you would probably want to bring that comfort range in a little closer to you with such a small barrel. It does come with two magazines. They are a 10 round and a 12 round, and the 12 round does come with a little extension, so you've got some room for your pinky, which everyone knows that has watched these channels before. This is a big deal for most people with normal sized hands. So let's hit the range and see how this thing scores. We've got this itty bitty Bodyguard in 380 out at the range with the tiniest little holster to go with it. And we're gonna do, same as always with all the Monday gun days, we do bill drill, 3 reload 3, 3 reload 3, and then a no time limit 10 rounds just for accuracy, which I'm not expecting a whole lot. This is a tiny gun, you know. You sacrifice a lot when you go to a gun so small. But holy cow, is this comfortable. I could do this all day long. All right, one thing I am consciously doing, and we actually did this in the ordering of the holster, because this grip is so small, one mag is the extended mag, and the other is not. And for any normal size, I actually have kind of small hands compared to most of the guys here. For any normal size human, you'll want some pinky purchase. So we are operating this with the extended mag off the bat and the short mag as your spare. And so we ordered the holster accordingly because this is the setup I would carry in. This gun is so small, it does not matter that you add a little bit of length to the side you're carrying. Shooter ready, yes, stand by. Oh. Okay, this is a Smith & Wesson thing lately. Okay, gun's clear. I ride the top of the trigger a lot of the time. I don't know why. The way I grip, it's hard dexterity-wise for me to get to the bottom of the trigger. So I end up in the top half of the trigger quite often. On this, on a few other Smith & Wessons, that is a problem. It's not going to be a problem for everyone, but like I am in right there. So you have to be, and even there it hangs up. Okay, there it's not hanging up. The middle of my finger is below 50%. So if you're in the top 50% of the trigger, you're going to have a hang up on this blade, which to me, not great. Actually, I will pull this gun. For reference, this is a Hellcat, also in 380. I'm riding my finger as high as I possibly can against the frame, and I can still pull that trigger. Like I said, that's not going to be an issue with most people. Majority of people train to be in the bottom half of the trigger because it simulates a lighter trigger pull anyways. But the reality is that when I'm going fast, a lot of times when I'm getting my grip, that's kind of a reference point for me, and I end up in the top half of the trigger. I know it's not the best habit to have, but I have it, and that creates an issue with this gun. So keep that in mind. Let's go look at that group. Tiny gun, iron sights, 3 out, but all in all, not really a bad group. Just gotta move it up there. A 394, so pretty slow, but again, that's with a hang up on the trigger. So let's see if we can bring that to like under 3.5, because we're not really We're not really caring a whole lot about being super, super quick. We're more just feeling out the gun, but we do still want to keep a pace that's semi-quick. Quick enough to really feel how the gun's gonna function under a little bit of pressure. Shooter ready, stand by. Oh! Ow! Okay. We got a little bit of slide bite there. It's a tiny gun, you guys. It's really easy to ride it really high. That caught me off guard. I haven't got slide bite in years. I hung up on the trigger again. Like I said, it's just, that's me and how I'm shooting the gun. I hung up on the trigger. I got slide bite on the first shot. That led us to a 413. And not the greatest grouping, but still, this is manageable area for such a small gun. So I'm going to load up both mags. We're going to do 2 sets of 3 reload 3. Stand by. Oh. Listen, I don't want to hear it. There are 4 C zones on the bottom. Everything else is in the A zone. 3R3. All right. Ready? Okay. All right. This mag is so small, it actually becomes pretty difficult to like maneuver. You know, I lost my grip on it both times. Second time I was able to retain it, but then I caught it up on the mag well, which is non-existent. That is a Smith Wesson trait. That was a 6.64. Hopefully someone like Floyd's will make some accessories. Floyd's makes a bunch of stuff for the full-size M&Ps, and they have a lot of magwell options. So if they did something for that, that would be awesome. I was trending a little bit left, so I was trying to keep it right. I kept it a little bit too right on one and right on the line, but my group was like roughly this. So we'll load it up and do another 3R3. Shooter ready. Yes, stand by.
Nice.
All right, that one was a little better. That was a 490. I'm gonna be totally honest, that group's gonna be horrible. I did not have a great grip on the second string of 3. I don't know at what point they are, but these 3 were definitely somewhere out of those 6. This is a fake B8, everybody. That's at 10 yards. We forgot our real B8s. The range had that. It's basically same. The black ring is roughly 8 inches, and it's numbered out 9, 8, 7, 6, etc. But none of that really matters. We're going for group size accuracy. The B8 really gives us something to aim for, and scoring ends up being negligent because more often than not, the 0 is a little bit off on the gun, and we just deal with it because we're just looking at accuracy, not at the 0 of the gun. So we have this loaded up with 10 rounds. It's iron sights, so do not expect a good score on this one. This is going to be maybe the worst group you ever see on a Monday gun day, but here we go. All right, so before we walk down there, I am gonna say these irons are definitely not made for precision. The rear iron has a huge U-notch that has a ton of light on either side, and so there's a lot of room to play. When you have such a short barrel, I mean, we're basically like, this is barrel lengthwise in comparison with a snub nose revolver. The slightest little movement, the barrel is so small, it makes a big difference as you get further and further out. So having a sight with so much dead space on either side is not necessarily conducive to shooting good groups on any gun, but especially on one this short. And then 2, with it being irons, the entire, I'm covering the, basically the entire bottom half of the target with the irons. And so there's a decent amount of, I'm pretty sure I'm in the right spot. So let's go look at that group and see how we actually did, knowing that there's some of those nuances with this setup. Pretty bad. It's pretty bad. Is this keyholing? What's going on? Oh, no. It's because the paper is off.
Oh, okay.
And it's tearing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm going to guess that's probably 10 right there. That is not a good group. Not even close. But if you put a red dot on that gun, which it's not optic cut, but you send it to someone like Vinny at Monsoon Tactical, he might do it for you. I don't know. He does weird stuff all the time. That would be a game changer for any gun. Red dots are superior. I do not care who you are or what you say. They are. So let's head back to the Armory, score this gun up, and see how it did. All right, we are back from the range, and we're going to dive right in. First thing I will say before getting into the scoring is, as expected, this is one of the most comfortable concealed carry setups I have ever worn. It's just tiny. There's not many other guns that we have played with that compete in this size range. So if you are someone that finds yourself regularly choosing to not carry a gun because something like even your Glock 19 is too big, this might be a good option for you. I judge you because your Glock 19 is not too big, but you could always take a look at something like this. Our first category is going to be costs, and I rated this a 7.5 out of 10. Like we talked about before we went to the range, MSRP is right around $450, give or take, and I think that's a pretty good price, especially considering competitors of this gun being potentially a couple $100 more than that. For ergonomics, I gave this gun a 6. It is small enough that it affected some of the ergonomics for me. I will say, for being so small, it actually feels really good in your hand when you point and everything, but there is a definite learning curve with some of the functionality of this gun with it being so small. If I was going to carry this, I would spend a few days at the range making sure I was proficient with this gun before committing to carry it. Trigger, I'm giving a 4.2. That's a really bad score for trigger, and it's kind of twofold, and it's partially potentially a me thing. I don't personally think that there should ever even be a me thing. As you saw at the range, the trigger shoe safety was giving me some issues. You have to be on the bottom 50% of the trigger for it to not hang up on the frame at all. For me, that's just going to cause too many issues for me to feel comfortable. I personally would want to change this trigger out before carrying it, because if you go and post up and you feel like you have a dead trigger, and then you go through your whole malfunction, and you go up and you feel like you have a dead trigger again, obviously not good. On the flip side, if you are able to push through the safety and you just get it a little hang up on the frame like that, if you can hear it, that could potentially throw your shot off. And again, with this barrel being so short, not my favorite thing. I would go to an aftermarket trigger if it was me. And then even if you do get it perfectly, it's not the greatest trigger in the world. So overall, I give it a fairly low score. For bore axis, I gave it a 7.8 out of 10. It does have a very low bore axis, noticeably lower than a lot of the other guns that we were looking at. For that reason, it scored pretty good in bore axis. For sights, I gave this a 6.8 out of 10. They are metal sights. The front does have tritium in it, so there are a couple plus sides to it. It is obviously not a precision instrument, and the sights reflect that. There is a lot of gap between the front sight post and the rear posts when you are lined up. And the main thing that actually knocked down the score for me is that it does not come optic cut from the factory. There are aftermarket companies. Monsoon Tactical, it looks like, has been making an optic plate adapter for this and cutting your slide to fit it. It also looks like there's at least 1 or 2 companies making dovetail adapters for red dots. So you can put a dot on this gun. For me, that's a huge requirement. Iron sights are not the way in this day and age. So being able to take a red dot is a big deal for me, and this one does not have that ability from the factory, so it knocked that score down quite a bit. Next up is aftermarket support, and I gave that a 6.3. That is a score that, if this was a year from now, would probably be quite a bit higher. This is a fairly new gun to the market. It's not like new, but in the scope of the amount of time it takes third-party companies to buy the guns, get them in, design parts, design new triggers, design all this stuff for the guns. It's pretty new for that to be a deep pool to draw from. So there are not a ton of accessories, but there is some aftermarket support, some triggers, some base plates, things like that. So you're not totally high and dry in the third-party market, but it's not a Glock 19 where there's parts at every store you go into. For round capacity, I gave it a 7. For a gun this small, having a 12-round mag is nice. That being said, competitors like the Hellcat Pro do have 1 or more rounds in the magazine. So I knocked it down just a tiny bit. 12 plus 1 is pretty good though. For serviceability, I gave it a 7.9 out of 10. This breaks down pretty much exactly the same as the full-size M&P. The only reason I might say this is a little harder to service is because of how small it is. It's kind of harder to get into inside the frame, inside the slide, stuff like that. Definitely serviceable as long as you're competent. For value, I gave it a 7. I would rate that higher because this is a really affordable gun. The only reason I didn't rate it higher is because of red dot not being available from the factory. I do think there is a lot of value in being able to add a dot. So that is a good chunk of what I consider when I am rating value on these guns. For cool factor, I also gave it a 7. I actually think this thing is really cool. It might not be the best gun on the planet to shoot, but because it kind of looks like a toy, for some reason I think it's really funny and pretty cool. So it gets a pretty good score for that. That brings our total score to 67.6, which does put it at the bottom of our list, but our list is only, I think, like 4 or 5 guns long right now. Like I said, we are trying to do more and more small guns, and subcompacts are in their own category when we rate these because they're just not comparable to a full-size gun. If you agree with that score or disagree with that score, drop it in the comments. Let us know what other guns you want us to do Monday Gun Day on, especially some small ones. We kind of got the big ones covered. We have a lot of them and are interested in a lot of them on our own. But if you have small gun recommendations in particular, drop them below so we know what stuff to be looking at. Thanks for watching the video. Buy a holster, subscribe, tell your friends. We'll see you on the next one.